before we get into week 5, we just have to wrap up this one last set from week 4. I'm actually recording this on Monday. I think last week's video is going up in a few minutes from when I'm speaking right now, so they really did waste no time getting this one played after their extension. But it's, of course, Send It Sandshrews versus Flatland Flat Sands. On the Sandshrews side, we see the usual duo of Torkoal and Venusaur. And then we see Indeedee, Greninja, Hitmontop, Electivire. What I'm trying to figure out how to say is this looks, at this point, like kind of their comfort lineup. Like, they don't actually bring the same 6 every single week, but these are all some very familiar Pokemon, for sure, that they seem to... I feel like this coach goes for comfort picks a lot of the time, and these might be the Pokemon that he's comfiest with. Right now, on this team, Torkoal, Venusaur, of course, with the Sun-boosted fire attacks and Chlorophyll speed boost. The Indeedee can protect them from priority with Psychic Terrain and throw off some attacks. The Greninja is a fast attacker, although its Water-type damage is nerfed by the Sun. Hitmontop supporting with Intimidate, Wide Guard, Fake Out if there's no Psychic Terrain up, and then Electivire, it gets Follow Me, but I think it mostly just throws off electric attacks. On the Flat Sand side, we have Lucario and Mudsdale, but I don't think they have beat-up support to set either one of them up. We don't see the Whimsicott this week. Yeah, the team overall looks pretty weak to the Venusaur-Torkoal duo, except maybe the Honchkrow can help cover for that. Maybe the Jolteon, depending on its Terra type, although Jolteon is very fast, but I don't think it's faster than Chlorophyll Venusaur. But yeah, just a strong group of Pokemon with the Clefable also offering redirection support and Scraggy Intimidate, but I don't know what their game plan is. We'll just have to get into it and see. As we see Lucario and Mudsdale lead against Greninja and Venusaur. So Sandshrews may be preserving the option to set up Sun, but also to get Greninja going into something like a Mudsdale, maybe a Honchkrow depending on its set if they can. But the Mudsdale just switches right out for Scraggy, and no Intimidate. So it has Inner Focus or Justified, probably Inner Focus. Lucario just takes out the Greninja, so much for getting Greninja going, and I believe Greninja would normally be faster than Lucario, so this might be Scarf Lucario, actually. With the Aura Sphere, able to do a lot of damage into some of the Sandshrews Pokemon with a selection of special attacks. Certainly able to get some damage off on Torkoal, weaken its Eruption. It could have Psychic to cover the Venusaur, who's to say? Scraggy goes to sleep, but that's not the biggest loss for the Flat Sands. So they bring in Clefable here on the Electivire, tank that Brick Break very nicely. They brought Cute Charm Clefable. So we got 2 sleeping Pokemon and 1 infatuated. Electivire just goes right out to Hitmontop. So no Sun from the Sandshrews this game, as the Venusaur one-shots the Clefable. Scraggy throws off a Zen Headbutt. A lot of interesting options coming out from the Flat Sands side this week. Between what looks like Scarf Lucario, Cute Charm Clefable. I guess not a lot to cover for in the way of stat boosters on this team, so you might as well go for the hacks. And then the probably Inner Focus, Zen Headbutt Scraggy. But now the Mudsdale is in against the Venusaur, which is a position that they seem to be avoiding earlier, but we see the Grass Terra. Venusaur understandably going for Energy Ball. The Mudsdale now is weak to the Sludge Bomb, but Sandshrews coach didn't know now. They will know next time. And if they get an attack off here, then a Sludge Bomb is very threatening into the Mudsdale with the special defense drop. On the other hand, Lucario can switch in for free on it. So, tough position. But actually, there won't be any switching as the Scraggy drops to a close combat here. But Mudsdale KOs Venusaur, so no chance to get the Sludge Bomb off in this game. We see the Terra ground Electivire. Throw off an Ice Punch. Doesn't do that much to the Mudsdale. Gives it another stamina boost. And Mudsdale doesn't KO the Electivire there, but I think it's at this point looking to close this one out. Hitmontop takes out Lucario with a Mach Punch. That's a good tech, but the Lucario is denied another KO. But yeah, Electivire... Well, Electivire could have won there with a crit or a freeze, but just standard Ice Punch with no extra effects just doesn't do enough damage to Mudsdale. And so it was a pretty close game in the end. I mean, crits and freezes happen. It was definitely winnable for the Sandshrews, but the Flat Sands do take game 1. And yeah, they've shown... I mean, the Zen Headbutt Scraggy didn't necessarily do a lot of damage. It did enough for Mudsdale to take out the Venusaur. I'm not completely discrediting it, but some of the unusual attacks that they brought this week are not necessarily the strongest, but they were able to wear the Sandshrews down, and it's going to take some strong play to bring this one back, I think, to bring this one to a game 3, but we'll see what happens here, as it's now Jolteon and Honchkrow leading against Hitmontop and Torkoal. So we do see the Sun this time, and we see Pancake Mix, coach of the Flat Sands, doing something that I feel like I've seen them do at least a couple of times now. Bringing in the other 2 Pokemon in Game 2 that they didn't bring to Game 1. Really shaking things up and potentially putting the opponent on the back foot right away, as Torkoal can't exactly safely get an eruption off in front of these 2 faster threats. Jolteon, I'm sure, is carrying a fairly strong special attack. Honchkrow might be as well, but Honchkrow can attack on the physical or special side. It's actually a pretty versatile Pokemon for its fairly limited move pool. The Hitmontop can get a Fake Out into something here, unless there's a Covert Cloak, but even so, Torkoal is not in a great position to get going. Not that it necessarily would be against Mudsdale either, especially, or Lucario. It's kind of just a tough set for Torkoal, actually. They've covered for it pretty well by just having faster threats that can easily wear it down. As we see Torkoal commit to the Terra Fire, and for all that I've said, they're going to go for it here. Maybe they throw off a Heat Wave, expecting Torkoal to take some damage, but then the Heat Wave won't be nerfed, and these Pokemon are not especially bulky. They just try to get what damage they can with Torkoal before winning with Venusaur and something else in the back. But we'll see. As Jolteon actually attacks into Hitmontop, after all that talk from me about wearing Torkoal down, it is the Heat Wave play. It doesn't get any KOs yet, but... well, I guess it lets Venusaur in that there's some amount of pressure to attack Torkoal, but Pancake Mix, not taking the bait, goes for the Air Slash into the Hitmontop slot and gets the super effective hit into Venusaur. The Venusaur still will get a chance to attack now, but... I mean, maybe Venusaur KOs something, but then it probably gets KO'd in return. Torkoal could take another KO from there, so... yeah, it's a tricky position. The Honchkrow also could be carrying Sucker Punch. We've seen the Air Slash, but it could have a mixed set. So it is actually possible that you Sucker Punch Venusaur and then get a big Thunderbolt or something into Torkoal. A few different ways this turn can go, but we do see Venusaur knock out the Jolteon as Honchkrow sets Tailwind. Okay, setting up for whatever Pokemon in their back. It's Lucario and Mudsdale. No Clefable and Scraggy this time. I think that makes sense. They didn't seem especially impressive in Game 1. And now Sandshrews they kill a turn of Tailwind here, but they also kill a turn of their own Sun, and there's only one left. They can pivot Torkoal out, and they do, getting Hitmontop in. That will nerf Mudsdale a little bit, but it seems to be a special Lucario, and we see the Terra fighting probably Choice Scarf or a Sphere. They get 2 KOs there. So Sandshrews KO'd the first 2 Pokemon, but yeah, Flat Sands get 2 KOs back. They still have 1 turn of Tailwind. Sandshrews, I mean, can kill that here. They do get their Sun up, but there's actually no Protect from the Greninja. Maybe it had Specs, but it just drops to an Aura Sphere. No Focus Sash either, so I think that also supports Specs as a possibility. And the Tailwind ends, but the Torkoal is the only thing left, and it just drops to an Aura Sphere. Pretty dominant Game 2 from the Flat Sands, and they do take the set as... yeah, they just... the Torkoal was never in a safe position. They covered well enough for the Venusaur, setting up the Tailwind and having what I think is Scarf Lucario in the back. And then Greninja never got a chance to attack, and that's it. Another win for the Flat Sands. They stay undefeated, as we'll see in the standings in a moment, in first place in the league. And now, with this set completed, we are at the halfway point in the season, and it's time to enter the second half with Week 5. Welcome back to PDL Season 6, and I'm sure you're just absolutely dying to see what the standings look like at the halfway point in the regular season. So let's just get right to it. Here they are. The Flatland Flat Sands and Dragapults remain the only 2 undefeated teams. If they win this week, then they'll have an undefeated showdown next week. And then we have Big Time Sand Rush in clear 3rd place, and a big clump of teams in the middle. All still, really everyone is still in contention for playoffs, no doubt about it. I believe it's been confirmed now that the playoffs will be the top 8 teams, which is what I expected with 16 teams in the league. And, I mean, there's still a lot to be determined about who that top 8 will be as we go into these last 4 weeks of the regular season. This would be the part where I do trades, but as we enter the second half, this is finally the first week of the season with no trades at all to report. There is already one up on the Discord for week 6, so it's possible that week 5 here will just be a blip. But with no trades, we'll just move on to the games, I guess. At time of recording, the Flatland Flat Sands and Mobile Mudkips have not played their week 5 set. I'm not sure what happened there, or I'm not sure what is going to be done with that one, whether it will be given an extension or a forfeit or a double loss. But we'll cover that. We'll have to cover that one next time. But we do still have my set, again, playing as the coach of the Alaskan Absols, which we'll show first, and then after that, replays for the other 6 sets. I've already gone back over my Absols replays, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to see me use Trick Room with Reuniclus in Game 1, and then claim in Game 2 that I haven't revealed it yet. Love spotting things like that when I go back over the replays, but let's just go ahead and see. Week 5, Alaskan Absols. I haven't prepped super hard for this one. In fact, I had to change an item on my team before I could accept this challenge because I accidentally had 2 life orbs. So I've changed Baxcalibur's item to Never Melt Ice like last week. But yeah, I kind of just slapped some stuff together for this one. We got the Never Melt Ice Baxcalibur with Terra Ground High Horsepower to cover for some things. Well, these 2 steel types here pretty much. It also means it can't be paralyzed by Klefki's Thunder Wave after the Terra. Trick Room Dusclops, this time with Mental Herb, because I decided I was more worried about Taunt into this matchup than just taking a lot of damage when I go to set Trick Room. I also have Haze for our Chaldon boosts, I think, and Brick Break so I can break Klefki's screens. Pretty simple Hitmonchan set, designed to just do damage into their team. If they'd brought the Noivern, then Ice Punch would look pretty good here, but as it is, the fighting coverage is fine into all these Pokemon. Avian Incineroar, basic set. Specs Primarina this time because Fairy type damage is pretty good into their team, and strong into everything they've brought this week except the Klefki. We can just lock into Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam, hopefully. Didn't really need a 4th attack, so I just put Life Dew there. And then, very similar Terra Fighting Reuniclus to last week. So, what's my game plan here? Set Trick Room and win? How's that for game plan? Considering they are Chaldon, I probably want Dusclops to set Trick Room and again possibly break screens, and then I probably want 3 of Baxcalibur, Hitmonchan, Primarina, Reuniclus. Once again, I'm not sure that we bring Incineroar to this one, although we'll see in the later games, but not in Game 1, I think. Baxcalibur is good into the Lilligant. Is it good into anything else here? Or do I just bring... Let's for Game 1 just bring Dusclops, Primarina, Hitmonchan, Reuniclus. I do have to watch out for Sleep Powder from the Lilligant, although that's why I have Terra Grass on Dusclops. I remember now. They lead their 2 steel types, and we see Assault Vest or Chaladon and Light Clay Klefki. Nothing too surprising there. And I think I will just go right for Trick Room and a Moonblast into our Chaladon. They have the Electro Shot, of course. Okay, but it doesn't KO Dusclops, even without the Eviolite. And I get my Trick Room up. Primarina we saw there is slower than our Chaladon. And I can just go for a Nightshade into Klefki, I think, and Moonblast the Archaladon slot. There's nothing they can safely switch in Oh, they tried to Thunder Wave their own Archaludon. That's really smart, but they missed. They could have gotten me with that. I think Thunder Wave is 90% accurate, so 90% chance that they get me with that, except you also have to account for the chance of a full para, so a bit less than 90. But that was a really good tech. It's too bad that didn't work out for them. The Klefki then probably doesn't have an attack, unless they only brought one screen. But that makes Klefki pretty non-threatening from here. Of course, I can't Nightshade or Nguru. But don't especially want to switch. Actually, I could switch Reuniclus in. Maybe it takes Hyper Voice and I'm unhappy, but we'll try. And we'll just go for a Moonblast into Oranguru. As, yeah, Specs Primarina is... Oh, we get the drop too. They reset my Trick Room, but I think that's okay. I don't think the Klefki has an attack. And yeah, Specs Primarina is just looking so strong into this team. I didn't find room for Gravity on the Dusclops this time. So, here's hoping for some Focus Blast luck. Oh, they miss a Thunder Wave. Really unlucky game for my opponent so far. But they're not doing much damage with the Oranguru anyway. And here I can just click Psychic into that slot. Or actually, I can even just get the Trick Room back up. And go for another Moonblast into the Oranguru slot. Primarina's paralyzed. But the Oranguru is still not doing much damage. Primarina gets another KO here. And I get Trick Room back up. And we see it's the Lilligant in the back. So I can just Psychic and Moonblast that slot. Haven't even needed to show the Terra Fairy Primarina. If Primarina breaks through here, we KO Lilligant. And they actually haven't shown Reflect, so it's still possible that Klefki has an attack. But I'll just Focus Blast into that and pivot Primarina out so I can switch attacks when I bring it in. But no, the Klefki doesn't have an attack. So, I'm just Psychic and Nightshade here. And we go to Game 2. Dusclops picking up that last KO there. I have a feeling Game 2 will not go quite that smoothly. But we'll see. I never brought in Hitmonchan that game. Is Hitmonchan important into the Archaludon? It does have the super effective coverage, but... I don't know. Also, if I just go for Terra Fairy Primarina, I wonder whether that KOs Archaludon, even through the Assault Vest. Of course, they can set Light Screen if they want. Let's just lead Dusclops Primarina again. You know, I'm going to bring the same 4 Pokemon. And if it doesn't work out, we can adjust in Game 3. Okay, it's Klefki Archaludon lead again. And this time I'm going to go for the Terra Fairy on Primarina, so that if they Electroshock Primarina this time, it won't be super effective. And we'll see if it one-shots the Archaludon as well. So let's just go Trick Room and Terra Fairy Moonblast. They do go Rain Dance Electroshot. Is it into Primarina this time? It is. Moonblast doesn't quite one-shot, but... I mean... Now I can just target a Nightshade into Archaludon. And I can even play it safe by switching Primarina out here to Reuniclus. So if they go for the self-Thunder Wave play again, I don't lose Primarina to an Electroshot before I get the Nightshade off. Yeah, they do go for that this time. Actually, Dusclops is still slower than Archaludon, so I didn't need to switch Primarina out there. I kind of gave up some momentum for nothing. But that's not necessarily the end of the world. I don't really want to switch Hitmonchan in on a Psychic, though. So maybe I just leave Dusclops on the field and we play a grindy game here. I can Brick Break the Oranguru. I don't think it'll do much, but it'll do more than Nightshade. And just go for Focus Blast, I guess. Actually, Brick Break also removes that light screen, so the Focus Blast does more damage. We see it does 50%. And I'll just Brick Break and Focus Blast again. If they have Lilligant in the back again, it doesn't especially want to switch in. Ah, they have Poliwrath in the last slot. Okay. If it has Swift Swim... Okay, we missed the Focus Blast. Okay, yeah, if it has Swift Swim, then Poliwrath has, of course, a speed advantage here. I don't know what Pokemon I think it's going to attack. I kind of want to protect Reuniclus and set Trick Room. But if the Poliwrath can KO Dusclops, of course I don't have the Grass Terra available now. That necessarily doesn't necessarily work out in my favor. I think I will go for Trick Room and Psychic. They do attack Dusclops. They also could flinch it. Oh, they have Trick Room in Prison. I see. Oh, and they also sealed Psychic on Reuniclus. Wait, how do I beat this Poliwrath now? That's wild. I can sack Hitmonchan and pivot Dusclops out. I don't think it's worth it though. I think I'm best off preserving Hitmonchan, and probably I can get an attack into Poliwrath later if I need. So I'll just double target the Oranguru. Actually, I'll Nightshade into the Poliwrath slot because Focus Blast will KO Oranguru anyway if it connects. Poliwrath, okay, Dusclops actually takes the Waterfall without the Rain boost on the damage, but we connect Focus Blast, so what's it called? Goes down. Oranguru goes down. Haven't done any damage to the Klefki. So it can set Rain for Poliwrath now. I don't have Protect on Primarina, of course. I'm going to bring Hitmonchan in. I can try now to set Trick Room. And just go for a Drain Punch into Poliwrath. Yeah, if Reuniclus survives the turn, then Trick Room is probably a little safer for me than just attacking Poliwrath. As actually, Poliwrath protects. They might think that I don't have Trick Room on Reuniclus. I haven't shown it yet, but there it is. And we'll Drain Punch and Psychic into Poliwrath. Did they Terra yet? No. So maybe it has a Terra type for this, but we'll see. Nope. We just land the Psychic, and then I don't think the Klefki has an attack, so that'll be the set, I think. Just Drain Punch and Psychic into Klefki. Didn't even need to bring the Primarina back in. And that is GG's to the Miami Palafins. Alaskan Absols winning for a second week in a row. With, I think, some fun techs here. The Specs Primarina was really good. The details of the Dusclops set didn't end up mattering all that much, although Brick Break was kind of cool. And we get Hitmonchan's season debut. So pretty solid week for the Absols all around. And we'll cut now to the replays of the other sets. Okay, and now the other 6 sets, as always in the order in which they were played. Starting this time with Azurbe Chatots versus Drago's Strongest Warrior. On the Drago side, we see the Sand duo of Tyranitar and Lycanroc, with Gastrodon able to protect them from water attacks from a couple of different water types that have shown up on the Chatots side here. The Corviknight could be well, it could have an interesting role in this set. Of course, being able to run a physically bulky setup set with maybe Brave Bird to cover for Ludicolo, maybe Body Press to cover for steel types like King Gambit, but it does to an extent have to be afraid of Magnezone, though of course you can Terra around that. And you could probably afford to Terra Corviknight in this set, I think, although there may be reason to Terra one of the 3 rock types at some point in front of literally 6 Pokemon that beat rock types, actually. That's going to be interesting. The Comfey will help out a lot, though. We've seen it keep Tyranitar healthy toward a winning game plan. We could see it do the same to Corviknight, I think. I don't know what the Probopass is for. And then, yeah, a lot of answers to rock types and sand Pokemon in general on the other side. Again, the Magnezone will threaten the Corviknight unless Drago commit their Terra into it. King Gambit, Hitmonlee, both very strong into the Tyranitar Lycanroc mode. The Ludicolo as well with its grass coverage, although Corviknight isn't bothered by that. And then, of course, Gastrodon can redirect water attacks from both of the water types. But we'll see what they go for here, as it is Tyranitar Corviknight lead. So maybe the 2 most threatening Pokemon just starting off the battle together, and we'll see what kind of setup they want to go for. They're facing Hitmonlee and Gabite, so this is a pretty good lead matchup for Corviknight, I think. Tyranitar can switch out if it wants. Instead it goes for Protect. I hope we don't see a high jump kick here, as Corviknight doesn't take much from that Rock Slide. And okay, close combat, good. I think you probably, I think you switch the Tyranitar out to preserve it here. You keep open the option to Terrasilize Corviknight, but Corviknight is just fine right now, as... What happened to it last turn? It flinched from the Rock Slide. Okay. But it doesn't set anything up. It just goes right for a Brave Bird into Hitmonlee. So maybe they are trying to work toward a Tyranitar endgame. Although, again, there's not really... I mean, the Tyranitar's Terra type can help it cover for some of its bad matchups. It's a whole team of bad matchups for unterrestrialized Tyranitar, but there might be a specific win con that they're going for. We see the King Gambit here. The Corviknight being fairly low. Oh, well, a little below half HP. King Gambit could be threatening into both of these Pokemon at this point. I don't actually know whether Endeavor counts as an attacking move. Like, if Lycanroc goes for Endeavor, I'm not sure whether a King Gambit Sucker Punch would successfully go before that or not. Oh, it's Supreme Overlord King Gambit as well, on an air balloon. Corviknight switches out here, and Tyranitar comes back in, which is interesting. And Lycanroc just goes for Protect, and then switches out to Corviknight. So carefully pivoting around on the Drago side, but the Corviknight is still accumulating damage, and Tyranitar, I guess... Huh. No, okay, Tyranitar faster than King Gambit. Makes sense. Higher base speed. And able to just one-shot it with that low kick. So now Drago has started to show some of the techs that they have for, as we see the Mirror Armor bounce back the Intimidate and the Clear Amulet on Tyranitar. Showing off some of the techs that they have for these Steel, Water, and Fighting type Pokemon. Of course, that might make it trickier for them in Game 2. But we see the Corviknight again just throw off a Brave Bird, sacrificing itself to take Gabite down. And now Gyarados is in, but... the Gastrodon is redirecting its attacks. It does go for Earthquake here. Tyranitar shows the Rock Terra, which into Terra Blast, which definitely surprises me some. Tyranitar not at all concerned about covering for his weaknesses, I guess, but just such in a set, but just such a strong Pokemon that it can get by anyway. And I guess the Rock Terra Blast gives it a Rock Stab that can't miss. And it did reasonable damage to the Gyarados that it turned into a ground type before finishing Gyarados off with a knockoff. So yeah, for all my talk about Drago's Strongest Warrior having to cover their weaknesses in that game, they kind of just didn't and overpowered things anyway. They have shown the low kick Tyranitar. They have shown that the Corviknight might be interested in just attacking instead of setting up. These might be things that Mario Man can exploit in Game 2, but we'll have to go to Game 2 to find out. As it starts with Tyranitar Corviknight lead again against Ludicolo and Magnezone. Okay, so the Magnezone... Ooh, that Giga Drain does 50% to Tyranitar right off the bat, and we know now that it doesn't have a defensive Terra type or an Assault Vest. And we didn't see a Terra from the Corviknight, so the Magnezone can threaten that now. Or not, as Corviknight just U-turns out. Doesn't quite KO Ludicolo, but the Sand Chip will. And Magnezone takes a lot from that knockoff. Gastrodon comes in on the Thunderbolt. Again, I talked about it covering for water weaknesses, but also very nicely covering for Corviknight's electric weakness there. Here's the King Gambit. But we know it has to be afraid of the low kick from Tyranitar. Tyranitar just protects this time. Gastrodon really doesn't take much from that Brick Break, even with the helping hand, as, I mean, non-stab Brick Break is... It has a lot of utility in breaking screens, but it's just not that strong an attack. And the Gastrodon shows the Yawn here, so Drago showing that they do have some techs apart from just attacking with powerful Pokemon. The King Gambit is going to fall asleep. It can't switch out now that the Magnezone has been KO'd. And Tyranitar did prioritize the Magnezone with that low kick, maybe thinking the King Gambit would show a defensive Terra type this turn. I'm not sure. But Tyranitar will drop to Brick Break. But we'll see what they have in the back. King Gambit's asleep. It's Hitmonlee in the back. We know that Corviknight can handle Hitmonlee. Gastrodon takes that close combat reasonably well. And yeah, Hitmonlee just gets one shot by the Brave Bird, and now King Gambit is alone and asleep. Drago may be forgetting about... Well, I was going to say Drago may be forgetting about the air balloon, but actually maybe they just were doubling into Hitmonlee to make sure it went down. Just in case it could take the Brave Bird, I don't know. Also, I've already closed the replay for Game 1, so I can't check whether we've seen all of Gastrodon's moves, but it may be that it doesn't have another attack. Oh no, it has Ice Beam. Okay. Well, no, in that case, I don't know why you don't... I don't know why you Earth Power last turn instead of Ice Beam. I think maybe they just didn't think that play all the way through. and they were doubling into Hitmonlee. But you can also double into Hitmonlee with Ice Beam and then still do damage to King Gambit, if that's how it goes. But the Lycanroc will finish King Gambit off with close combat here. And yeah, this was a really interesting set, actually, because Mario Man brought a full team. I mean, I don't want to... Maybe I'm overhyping it a little bit. Like, Gabite just isn't that strong, but on paper, a full team of Pokemon that threatened the Sand Core, and the Sand Core just broke through anyway. So this is, I guess... This is, I guess, a good showcase of what the Drago Strongest Warrior team can do and why they're a threat every week, even as some sets haven't gone their way at some points this season. We move on now to the Boston Biblically Accurate Maushold versus Marvelous Bridge Malamars. And look at this, they actually did it. I didn't think it was really going to happen, but the Malamars have brought a mono dark team this week. They have 1 dark type, 2 dark types, 3 dark types, 4 dark types, 5 dark types, 6 dark types. They said in the Discord that they were going to do it at some point, and here it is. But it's a tough matchup for it because Spooky brings both fighting types with the Hisuian and Decidueye, which we've seen can be very strong, and the the Primeape, which is not nearly as strong as an Annihilape, but is still supported by the Maushold. And then some familiar faces in Meowstic, Flapple, Rotom, maybe going for a Gravity play again. If the Malamars had done something different, we know they have some strong, bulky Psychic types. I'm not as sure what Spooky has for that, although the Rotom can probably help to cover those to an extent, being able to Thunderbolt Slowbro, burn Metagross, maybe even get like a Shadow Ball into Metagross if you want to run something like that. I think Metagross could have been a real problem for this team, though. I imagine the Rotom helps to cover for it. But instead, it's 6 Dark types, and who knows what they're going to do. As we see Mandibuzz and Meowscarada lead against Meowstic and Hisuian Decidueye. The Mandibuzz goes for Terra Ghost immediately, and the Decidueye for Terra Flying. What is the Terra Flying for? Maybe something that they didn't bring. I don't necessarily know here. I mean, you can boost your flying attacks, but you also can just triple arrows into Meowscarada or something, unless you're covering for Terra type. Meowstic misses a Fake Out into Meowscarada, so I guess it's Bright Powder Meowscarada. That's pretty interesting. It goes right for Toxic Spikes. The Decidueye does nicely take that Heat Wave, very little damage after the Terra. So I'm questioning at this point why it's the flying type specifically, but Terastallizing there did help them out nicely. And of course the Meowscarada, if it has Bright Powder, it doesn't have a Focus Sash, so it just drops the triple arrows. Now the Mightyena comes in with Intimidate, but unsurprisingly the Decidueye has Scrappy. Oh, that's a fun thing they picked up on. Meowstic now is able to Thunder Wave Mandibuzz because it turned its Dark typing off. Of course, before Terra, Meowstic's Prankster Thunder Wave is completely useless into this entire team. But they found the one use for it in this game, as Decidueye just KOs Mightyena. Mandibuzz says Tailwind, but let's see who's in the back. It's Malamar, okay. So again, if Decidueye hadn't turned off its fighting typing defensively, Malamar would be a threat. So I do like just Terastallizing Decidueye right away and going for it. Of course, the other thing I haven't mentioned is it turned off its double weakness into a possible Brave Bird from the Mandibuzz. So, I mean, we've seen into this Mono Dark team, Decidueye can just start running through it if you take away its very exploitable weaknesses. I just still don't know why flying specifically, but maybe we'll find out. Spooky will probably tell me after watching this. Did Decidueye... Wait. Oh, it was a Rock Slide flinch. Okay. And the Malamar starts setting up with Superpower as we see the Gravity and the Rotom come in, so there's that mode. Rotom flinching now. You think it's a King's Rock Malamar? Decidueye comes in and... Oh, it gets poisoned by the Toxic Spikes because of their own Gravity. I was like, wait, it's a flying type. How did that happen? But it's because Gravity makes ungrounded Pokemon grounded. So Spooky opened his own Decidueye up to getting poisoned there. But there's the Will-O-Wisp into the Malamar. Decidueye does get KO'd here by the Rock Slide. But Spooky now, I guess, looking to Rotom and Flapple under Gravity to close this one out. The Malamar Rock Slide under Tailwind is still racking up damage and flinches pretty nicely. Takes a lot from that Hydro Pump, though, and I think the burn damage will finish it off. Mandibuzz KOs Flapple. And that brings us to a Rotom Mandibuzz endgame, which I would think favors Rotom, even though Mandibuzz has turned its flying typing off. Yeah, that Hurricane doesn't do much to Rotom, though it does get the confusion. But Mandibuzz has to watch out for full paralysis or for missing Hurricane. That was a good turn for the Malamars, but the Rotom then breaks through, lands the Thunderbolt, and after Tailwind is still faster than the Mandibuzz because of the para, and so KOs it with another Thunderbolt. And so the Decidueye didn't exactly purely just run through the Malamars team that game, but it did get 2 KOs and apply a ton of pressure, such that the biblically accurate Maushold were able to close things out pretty cleanly. I don't know what the Malamars have for that in Game 2, but let's see. As it's Malamar and Meowscarada. Malamar now leading right off the bat against Maushold and Primeape. Interesting. So no Decidueye yet. Maushold just going right for the population bomb into Malamar, but it only gets 1 hit. That's some bad luck for Spooky there. And it's actually not Meowscarada, it's Zoroark, as we see the Terra Fire Flamethrower. Malamar just KOs the Maushold and gets its superpower boost. But if Population Bomb had gotten the full 10 hits, then Malamar would be gone this turn. Obviously, there are a lot of possible outcomes in between, but it's very unlucky that it only got 1 hit. So what can you do with that? Meowstic comes in, fakes out the Malamar. Zoroark is doing a lot of damage to Primeape, but it'll take a lot from that Drain Punch and be knocked down to its Focus Sash. Meowstic is able to Thunder Wave the Zoroark because it turned off its Dark typing, so there's that again. As Malamar KOs it with a Lunge. Interesting, okay. Good coverage. Primeape's burned, Decidueye gets in here, Primeape can finish Zoroark off. Decidueye... Oh yeah, Decidueye is not going to enjoy taking that Lunge as it does take the attack drop. But a Triple Arrows crit KOs Malamar. And Spooky cannot switch the Decidueye out. These are his last 2 Pokemon, so... We know Meowscarada's in the back, we don't know what else. It's Bisharp. Decidueye might be able to close this one out. Primeape protecting on the Flower Trick I think is good. Oh, but there's the Poison Jab from the Bisharp, and the -1 Triple Arrows doesn't quite KO Meowscarada. And so... Yeah, the Bisharp threatening that much damage, which Spooky maybe didn't see coming, and then the Meowscarada holding on this turn is too much to overcome. And so the Malamars take this one, but I do think they had some good luck with the burn on Primeape. That was a Flamethrower burn, right? Yeah. And with the Population Bomb dodge after just 1 hit. I don't know. I still don't know if their Dark types can hold up against this team in a Game 3, but you never know. That's why we play the games. As we see Mightyena and Bisharp lead now. Wouldn't be surprised if one of them is Zoroark against Meowstic and Maushold. Meowstic going right for the Dark Terra, setting Gravity. And Maushold takes a lot from that Mightyena Sucker Punch, and at -1 attack, I don't know if this Population Bomb will KO. Nope, not quite. And we see the Dark Pulse from the Bisharp, so that is Zoroark. There's the Terra Fire. Is it going to go for Flamethrower into the Decidueye switch-in? Because that could be the tech that wins the set, but no. If Flamethrower is Meowstic, I think if I were playing in their position, Meowstic is the slot that I would guess would be more likely to switch out there, so I can understand that. It would be a cool play if they Flamethrowered the Decidueye, but I'm not trying to say that they should have. I don't know that it's something that I would have thought of in their position. It just would have been pretty exciting if it had happened. Here we see the real Bisharp come in, but, I mean, Decidueye kind of has its choice of juicy fighting type targets here, although the Zoroark is still threatening Flamethrower, and Decidueye can't Terrastallize. Though as I say that, I realize the Meowstic can Thunder Wave the Zoroark, though as I say that, I realize the Zoroark has a Focus Sash still intact, so Meowstic Thunder Wave Decidueye Triple Arrows does not KO Zoroark. And there's still a chance for Decidueye to take a big Flamethrower and Poison Jab out of that. Maybe even you try to KO the Bisharp instead of the Zoroark, so you only take 1 attack. I don't know. But for now, Decidueye will just protect. Okay, Decidueye protects and Meowstic breaks the Zoroark Sash. That works better than any of those other things I said. Except that you can't paralyze Zoroark now because Meowstic has gone down. I paused a little slowly, so we see the population bomb go off. I was about to say, like, I don't know, maybe Maushold clicks follow me here. But actually, this is better, because Zoroark is not very bulky. Maushold is not burned or intimidated right now. Maushold can probably just KO Zoroark with his population bomb and then Decidueye deal with Bisharp. And that's how you position Decidueye properly in this set. Not all that. Also, under gravity, the population bomb won't miss, I think. At least very good odds. I don't know the math. The Poison Jab doesn't even KO Maushold, and the Triple Arrows just one-shots Bisharp. So yeah, that was a better play than anything I was talking through. Guess I maybe tried to Monday morning quarterback a little too hard there, though. As, yeah, the real thing for Spooky was break the Sash on the Zoroark, sack Meowstic, and then you don't even need Follow Me for the Maushold. It applies so much of its own offensive pressure that it can protect Decidueye from taking a hit while Decidueye gets the KOs it needs. And Meowstic is not going to win this one by itself. Here we do see the Follow Me. Very clean and easy for Maushold to just sack itself. And I don't know if that Triple Arrows even could have missed on a Bright Powder Meowscarada there, but that's funny. Showdown's confused about the Bisharp because of the illusion with Zoroark, but all four of Bryce's Pokemon are KO'd, and so Spooky, yeah, positioning the... not getting unlucky like in Game 2 and positioning the Hisui and Decidueye well, and the Dark types just can't hold up to its Fighting type strength. Now we get Ceaseless Samurotts versus Varsity Farmboys. The Samurotts have brought... what is this Pokemon called? Lurantis, so that's interesting. They brought a lot of interesting Pokemon. Kind of on the slower side, apart from the Kilowattrel and the Salazzle, but the Samurotts really seem to like bringing both Kilowattrel and Farigiraf to their sets and playing a possible tail room mode that's flexible into whatever kind of speeds their opponents are bringing. We'll see how they do that this time. I can find it hard to predict. And on the Farmboys side, we've got the duo of Ninetales and Vileplume, so we have Sun Chlorophyll stuff. We have Bayleaf, probably here to keep its teammates healthy. And then just some strong pieces in Ursaluna and Polion. Ursaluna with a lot of offense, and Polion with a mix of offense and support. Garganacl, we saw do very well in a bulky mode, at least for a while last week. I don't know necessarily how these pieces fit together, but maybe they've just gone with a flexible approach as well. As we see Ninetales and Vileplume, the combo that I do understand, lead into Kilowattrel and Lurantis, but we don't see Drought activate from the Ninetales. Apparently it's Flash Fire this time. So maybe that'll help them deal with Skeledirge. They can at least make it harder for that to get going with Torch Song, but I was completely wrong about the Chlorophyll combo. The Vileplume, I guess, is here to do something else. Maybe it'll even have Effect Spore. Instead, we see the Kilowattrel grab speed control by setting Tailwind. Lurantis just goes right for a superpower into Ninetales. Gets the boost, but if that Overheat had gone into Lurantis, I mean, maybe it has a Focus Sash, I don't know, but that was an aggressive play there from Panda. The Ninetales now is switched out by its Eject Pack, and the Lurantis just drops to a Sludge Bomb from Vileplume. So no Sash. It just faced two Pokemon with super effective stabs into it and just went for some damage. Maybe that's building towards something for Panda. I don't know what you'd need the Ninetales weakened for. Maybe it is a Skeledirge endgame, but if it is, then it might have trouble with this Garganacl here. We see Hisui and Samurott come in first. Kilowattrel Volt switches on the Vileplume, so we'll see the last Pokemon here, and it's Farigiraf. It is not Skeledirge, so... yeah, I don't know what that Lurantis play was for. Maybe they just didn't feel like they could safely switch anything in that position, and they need to save their Terra for something. We don't know what the Terra type is on the Lurantis, but in any case, Garganacl protects around this Aqua Cutter. Sludge Bomb does decent damage to Farigiraf. We see the Terra Fairy Garganacl. Still takes a fair bit from Aqua Cutter, but... oh, and the Psychic Noise heal blocks it, so... it won't be able to click Recover now. They can probably overwhelm it. Although, we'll see what the Samurott takes from this Energy Ball, as the Vileplume is just sitting there and putting in work even without its... well, it has... no, even without its speed boost. But Garganacl also showing the Moranga Berry, which I couldn't have told you from memory what that berry does, but the special defense boost is pretty good into a lot of strong special attackers on Panda's team. They love to bring the Kilowattrel and the Farigiraf. And then, of course, the Skeledirge is a very threatening Pokemon. Samurott does just drop to the Energy Ball. And I don't know that Kilowattrel and Farigiraf can close this one out. Kilowattrel does KO Vileplume, finally. After Volt switching out of it earlier and leaving Samurott vulnerable. But, yeah, I don't think Farigiraf is bringing this one back, as it actually just drops to a Headlong Rush crit. So, yeah, I don't necessarily know what Panda's game plan was there. We'll see how they adjust in Game 2, but the Vileplume without Chlorophyll still just sat on the field and knocked things out with a stab combination that had pretty good coverage into what Panda brought here. I feel like Panda can't allow that in Game 2, but let's see what the leads even are here. As we get Kilowattrel and Salazzle against, this time, Empoleon and Bayleaf. Is this going to be a Pledge combo? Are they going to set up the Swamp? And then Vileplume won't have to worry about speed control if they brought that, or Ursaluna might come out ahead in speed control if they get the Swamp set up. That could be interesting. But we'll see the Empoleon flinch here unless it has Covert Cloak. Yes, yeah, the Bayleaf does just go into a Grass Pledge. And that's interesting. Apparently, if you go for the Pledge combo and it doesn't work, your whole attack is cancelled. Right? I don't think I'd seen that before. I might have guessed that the Bayleaf would just use an ordinary Grass Pledge, but no. The Bayleaf is waiting for Empoleon's move, and Empoleon's move doesn't come, so it's cancelled. That's interesting, an interesting interaction there. Empoleon shows the Terra Dragon, so it won't have to be afraid of a Volt Switch now, as they do get the Pledge combo here. Does decent damage to Kilowattrel through the resistance. And yeah, both of Panda's Pokemon are pretty well chipped down. Kilowattrel Volt switches out, but of course Empoleon now resists that. Skitter Smack is kind of a fun tech, but it's competitive Empoleon, so it gets a boost from it instead of a drop. Salazzle switching out to Kilowattrel, I mean, probably just going to lose Kilowattrel at this point. Lurantis goes for the Dragon Terra and gets KO'd by Ice Beam, which of course is super effective before or after Terra. I think Dragon, I mean, it's probably, they probably had the Ninetales in mind when they picked Dragon for their Terra type. It does also turn off the weakness to Vileplume's Sludge Bomb. But yeah, Grass type, it's hard to cover all your weaknesses. There are a lot of them. But we have seen the Farmboys throw off ice attacks with Empoleon and Politoed in the past, so bit unfortunate there, as that play doesn't work out. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that Dragon was necessarily the best Terra type for Lurantis. But then if you want to cover the fire weakness, you can't run fire into this team. They have so many answers to that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Water Terra would have been best. That doesn't really protect it that much against the Vileplume, but... And also, there's Salt Cure to think about, I guess. I don't know, it's tough. It's tough to find the right Terra type in this matchup, I think. I'm not going to nitpick too much, a hard decision. But the Empoleon is just running away with this game so far. Panda stalls it out some this turn and gets damage on the Bayleaf. Oh, and the Endeavor into Empoleon means that Empoleon might not be able to run away with this game much longer. Unfortunately, committing the Endeavor and then trying to attack the Bayleaf survived, and Panda's Pokemon are so worn down at this point that they both get KO'd in the process of making that Endeavor play. And so, Farmboys Pokemon are very low. We will see Empoleon drop here, but this Samurott is not going to sweep the whole team itself, I don't think. It does get the KO into Bayleaf, but it takes a lot of damage from a Grass Pledge first. And here is Ursaluna to close the game out once again. Ursaluna sitting in the back both games and then just being overwhelmingly powerful in the late game. And yeah, this was a tough matchup for the Samurotts for sure. You know, I keep looking for plays that they could have made, and they were just up against a really strong team that had what they brought covered really well. I think this was always going to be a hard one to win. We move on now to Dallas Dragapults versus Arctic Articunos. I think this was a long set in real time. Unless I'm misremembering, unless I'm thinking of a different set, there was one, and I think it was this one, where They came into the Discord after they played talking about how long this one had taken to play. And it might have something to do with the bulky Pokemon on the Articunos side. We see the Goodra, we see the Skarmory for what I think is the first time this season. The Muck, which we've seen wall some Pokemon in past weeks. The Blaze Breed Tauros with Intimidate support. The Ursaluna, which is very strong, but also just has high stats in general. It can take some hits. And there's the Electrode. And on the Dragapults side, we see Pelipper, Basculegion, Overquill. We know at this point that Overquill is not necessarily a Swift Swim attacker, but it could be. They brought some kind of rain mode here, along with the Raichu, which I guess will protect his teammates from Electrode, and then the classic duo of Hawlucha and Rillaboom that we've seen put in work so many weeks. And it starts with Electrode and Goodra leading against Hawlucha and Basculegion. Electrode, yep, threatening both of these Pokemon with the Sabs. The Raichu can redirect electric attacks, so the Hawlucha will benefit from that. But of course, the Basculegion also has to watch out for grass attacks from the Electrode, because it is a Hisuian Electrode. Unless they have something to cover for that, like a Terra type, that'd be useful. So I could see Raichu switching in here, but then also, I don't know what the Goodra will do. In any case, Electrode just protects this turn, so does Hawlucha, so does Basculegion. Both players kind of feeling each other out, I guess, as literally every Pokemon clicked Protect or Detect that turn. Now we see the Rillaboom come in. Is that going to help? It's her Spider-Man meme. Is that going to help cover for the Electrode? But Hawlucha commits to Terra Fighting, so looking to put in work with Hawlucha here. They just throw a close combat into Electrode. It does survive with the Focus Sash, but it's going to be hard for Electrode to threaten the team from there. Thunderbolt does a lot to Hawlucha, but doesn't KO after the Terra. That was Thunderbolt from the Goodra. Electrode keeps staying alive, getting a bit of recovery. But yeah, sort of a passive play there with the double protect. So we'll see what Trico's going for. As Hawlucha protects on the Thunder Wave, Goodra gets the crit with the Flamethrower, and Rillaboom is fully paralyzed. Goodra has some good coverage into this team, but I don't know that that would necessarily do so much damage without the crit. But I do kind of see the vision with the Thunderbolt covering the Rain Pokemon Hawlucha and then the Flamethrower into Rillaboom. They have something for the Pokemon that Ninja Meerkat has been bringing most often. And, you know, I guess the idea is hopefully Goodra can sit there, tank things, and throw off damage back. We'll see now the Electrode just sitting there spamming Protect. Kinda trying to get healthy again or something? I don't know, but Hawlucha does drop here. It does a lot of damage to Goodra before getting KO'd, but KO'd it is. Now the Overquill comes in. It shows the Intimidate. I'm not surprised by that at this point. And there's still a lot of protecting. I can see why this took a while. But Rillaboom will finish off the Electrode now, preventing more paralysis from spreading into the Overquill. And we see that they didn't bring the Pelipper this game. We've got Basculegion and Overquill with no rain on the field. More protecting. And of course the Intimidate into both of these physical Pokemon. But Overquill going for the Barb Barrage plan. Doesn't get the para into Goodra this time. We've seen what it can do, or the poison. We've seen what it can do with those Barb Barrage poisons in the past. As Goodra goes out to Ursaluna, Goodra being fairly weakened at this point, and I mean Ursaluna at least resists the poison attacks. And I guess Tauros is probably looking to KO Basculegion here, going for the Terra Electric, so this might be the time to bring in Ursaluna, because in a moment it won't have to be afraid of Basculegion anymore. Basculegion going first, but it does flip turn out to Rillaboom. But good call there by Trico. When did the Tauros terrestrialize? Okay, yeah, it was this turn. But yeah, good call there. Instead of just throwing a Flare Blitz into the Basculegion slot, sure enough, Basculegion wants to get out. And, well, okay, it did try to flip turn the previous turn, so you know that's coming. And you can cover for the Rillaboom switch in with the Flare Blitz there. It does put a lot of damage onto Tauros, but the Barb Barrage doesn't do too much. But Tauros is KO'd by a Wave Crash, so any plan to use it to quickly knock out the Basculegion is gone, largely thanks to Flare Blitz recoil. However, Ursaluna KOs Overquill. Goodra's back in. Basculegion might not be able to beat both of these Pokemon. It prioritizes Goodra, and yeah, it's going to go drop to a Blood Moon here. So, in the end, the Tauros, I guess, just needed to get a KO, and it did what it needed to do, as they knew the flip turn was coming so they could KO the Rillaboom. And then Basculegion, very strong Pokemon, puts out a ton of damage, but not especially bulky and hurts itself with its own Wave Crash, not able to hold up against the bulky duo of Ursaluna and Goodra in the back. So that was kind of a slow game to get going, but Trico was just playing it carefully, I think. Spreading paralysis, accumulating damage here and there, and then just able to overpower the frailer Pokemon on the other side in the end. And Barb Barrage never poisoning anything can't have been very helpful to Ninja Meerkat either. But we'll jump now to Game 2. As we see Goodra and Skarmory leading against Raichu and Basculegion. Raichu, I guess, trying to cover for the Electrode, probably. Of course, Ninja Meerkat didn't bring Raichu to that last game, so didn't have it available to redirect all those Thunder Waves, but spamming Thunder Wave will not be working this time as long as Raichu's on the field. Trico may be realizing that, doesn't lead the Electrode this time, although the Skarmory you'd think is threatened by a Raichu lead, so maybe they didn't read that coming. But in any case, we get more Protects, we get an Electro Web, a Flip Turn. So in a moment we'll see one of Ninja Meerkat's other Pokemon, I think. Ursaluna can come in safely on the Electro Web and threaten the Raichu. Maybe we'll see a Terra type on the Raichu, but as it is, Raichu and Overqwil into Ursaluna. I'm not sure I see the vision, but we'll just have to see what Ninja Meerkat is cooking. Raichu's still just spamming Electro Web in the face of this Ursaluna. Maybe thinking at this point the Electrode has probably not come to this game. There's a Protect from Raichu. We see a Barb Barrage into Goodra. It does get the poison this time before Overqwil drops to an Earth Power. But that poison could make a significant difference. It's a lot harder for Goodra to tank things now. We see Basculegion come in, and they brought the Pelipper this time. Takes that Vacuum Wave nicely. Basculegion drops the Ursaluna. And its bulky partner Goodra again is poisoned. Basculegion does survive a Thunderbolt, but also get paralyzed by it there. But I still don't know what the Skarmory is going to do in this matchup into Pelipper and Raichu. So a lot might come down to Trico's last Pokemon. We see the Goodra get KO'd there. And the Basculegion, but I think Ninja Meerkat's okay with that trade. And it's Tauros in the back. So Tauros is, well, it might be able to threaten... Well, no. It can't threaten Pelipper with a Wild Charge because Raichu's on the field. So I think the duo of Pelipper and Raichu just wins this. We see the Endeavor into Skarmory. That's a good tech. And yeah, that Flare Blitz does not do much to Pelipper. Skarmory's going to drop to these two Pokemon anyway, but a lot of its bulk is taken away with that Endeavor damage, and Pelipper should finish it off pretty easily here. Actually, the rain wearing off. Pelipper only seems to have Weather Ball and Hurricane. Pretty standard. Missing a Hurricane was pretty scary for Ninja Meerkat there in game... or in the second last turn. As the Pelipper took a lot from the Brave Bird. Of course, they couldn't go for Weather Ball anymore because it would be Normal type. But the Pelipper... So there was very much a way to lose that, but Pelipper did connect the Hurricane on the last turn, and technically Ninja Meerkat got the rare VGC 0-0 win, but that is still a win, and so he'll go to Game 3. Yeah, Rillaboom and Hawlucha didn't come to Game 2. They didn't do enough in Game 1, so it makes sense. Maybe that's what Skarmory was meant to cover for, but instead Ninja Meerkat bringing the Raichu, which makes Electrode, Thunder Wave, Paraspam harder to pull off if the Electrode come. It means that Tauros can't handle the Pelipper, and it means that Skarmory potentially walling Hawlucha and Rillaboom is, not of much help. It doesn't do the same work into Raichu Pelipper. So that was definitely seemed like the stronger mode for Ninja Meerkat. We'll see if they go back to it in this game. As we see Goodra and Muck. We see Goodra and Muck lead against Overqwil and Basculegion. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat here. I don't usually think to look at it while I'm going through these. But I'm astonished you would risk that ending on the Hurricane. Why wouldn't you? Got content to make. That's very funny, and that's some sportsmanship there from Ninja Meerkat. And this is a good time for me to remember to say that Reckless Trico covers their own sets from their own perspective, live coach commentary on a YouTube channel of the same name, Reckless Trico. I don't think there's any VGC in the channel name. It's just Reckless Trico. But go check that out for first-hand Arctic Articunos coverage. Anyway, Basculegion over Quill lead. Ninja Meerkat loves this duo, as we for good reason we've seen. And we see the Muck come to this game. I haven't remarked on that yet, and I don't necessarily know what it's going to do, but Muck is a hard Pokemon to predict. And we see more Protects, actually just one, as Muck takes a lot from that Wave Crash. But the Barb Barrage doesn't connect into Goodra this time. I was assuming Basculegion was choice locked for a while there, from the way that both players played it, but we do get confirmation now of the Scarf, as Basculegion with the Water Terra does take the knockoff, but gets poisoned by the Poison Touch. However, Muck gets KO'd by its own Life Orb. Now we see the Ursaluna come in, Terrasilize to Ghost. Basculegion's going to protect. And Overquill going right for the Throat Chop. I don't know if they saw the Ghost Terra coming, or they were just trying to deny a Hyper Voice, but either way, that is a great tech into the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Overquill also taking a Draco Meteor from Goodra, so Goodra rapidly weakening its own damage, and sure enough, the Hyper Voice is denied there. They can get Pelipper in pretty safely. Overquill will take an Intimidate here, but the Barb Barrage seems to be mostly for poisoning things anyway. We see it, though, that it doesn't get the poison into Tauros there. And Ninja Meerkat not bringing the Raichu in if they have it, just letting Pelipper sit on the field, into which turns out to be pretty safe for it as Tauros protects, and Pelipper is able to KO the Ursaluna. So maybe kind of taking advantage of the Protect spam that we've seen throughout this set. As the Goodra comes in here, and the Tauros cannot safely Wild Charge, thanks to the Raichu switch in. It drops to a Weather Ball. And Goodra is at full health, but it also went for Thunderbolt. So Raichu absorbs 2 attacks and a ton of momentum with them. And yeah, Goodra is not just going to be able to close this one out. We see it flinch and take a bunch of Hurricane damage there. And then Raichu and Pelipper just wearing it down. This Hurricane will KO. It can't miss because of the rain. And so yeah, the Hawlucha, or the Hawlucha Rillaboom stuff in Game 1 didn't work out. But this Pelipper, Raichu, Basculegion, Overquill mode, pretty simple rain stuff, but very effective, as we saw in this set, as the electric coverage on multiple Pokemon wasn't able to do anything into the Raichu, and we saw Ninja Meerkat play a little more aggressively in this game to take advantage of the way that I think that the set had been going so far. The Goodra couldn't safely play a tanky game with Overquill threatening the poison. The Skarmory just couldn't come to Game 3. So it just couldn't really do much of anything into this mode. The Ursaluna is threatened by water types, big damage generally, and then the Throat Chop was a really nice tech in this game. And so, yeah, that's the strong rain mode at work. We move on now to Send It Sandshrews versus Lightning Lancers. The Sandshrews bringing pretty much the usual core group of Venusaur, Torkoal for the Sun stuff, complemented by Greninja, Hitmontop, and Electivire with various coverage and support moves. The outlier here, obviously, is the Dragonair. I really don't know what that's here for. But on the other side, we see Excadrill and Hippowdon, so bringing their Sand mode. We might have a Weather War here. Torkoal, I believe, is slower than Hippowdon, but if the Excadrill gets going, that can be very threatening, except perhaps into the Hitmontop and the Greninja. Those might be here to cover for that. But then the Salamence is very threatening into all of Sandshrews Pokemon, barring maybe like Ice coverage on the Greninja. I can see the Salamence putting in a lot of work here. The Crawdaunt, I feel like I underestimate the Crawdaunt sometimes. It does have some issues into this matchup. Like half of these Pokemon are very threatening into it, at least. But we know that it can hit hard when it gets going with the right support from maybe like Tailwind Salamence or Follow Me Indeedee or something. And then the Alchemy is always kind of a wild card on this team. It could run Decorate, it could try to set up itself. We'll just have to jump in and find out. What abilities does Alchemy get? Sweet Veil or Roma Veil. I don't remember. One of those, I think, prevents sleep on a teammate, right? Someone tell me in the comments. I think one of those prevents a teammate from falling asleep. So the Alchemy can also be here as an anti-Venusaur tech, although, of course, it is weak to Sludge Bomb. So not necessarily a long-lasting one. Someone tell me in the comments what Sweet Veil and Aroma Veil do. But we do see Venusaur and Hitmontop leading here against Hippowdon and Excadrill. Lancer's going right for the Sand mode, but that does mean that, well, it does mean that Torkoal can switch in, but it's pretty hard for Torkoal to switch in safely into these two Pokemon. So I guess they do figure they can just grab that momentum right away, and they might be right. But they actually pivot both Pokemon out here to Indeedee and Crawdaunt, and Crawdaunt just drops to a Leaf Storm. So they're kind of depending on Excadrill to win the game after this, aren't they? Indeedee and Hippowdon just don't hit that hard, as we've seen in the past. And the Torkoal gets in here. The Excadrill just goes right for the Terra Ground. The Indeedee, I didn't even realize, it's not running Psychic Surge. So it has one of its other two abilities. Probably Own Tempo. And that means Indeedee is able to run Fake Out. Excadrill dodges a Sleep Powder. That Sleep Powder, I think, would have given Sandshrews a huge advantage. Again, because Excadrill, I think, is so important to the offense on the other side now that Crawdaunt has just dropped like that. So yeah, that Sleep Powder miss is probably a big deal in this game. We do see its Blunder Policy Venusaur, which is kind of funny. So it'll now get a speed boost even when the sand goes back up. But yeah, Excadrill gets a chance to attack. Torkoal with the Shuka Berry takes that pretty well. A few interesting techs here into the sand mode from Sandshrews' side. Venusaur misses a Leaf Storm now. And Hitmontop drops to high horsepower with the Terra Ground even after -1 attack. Greninja comes in. Of course, his water attacks will be nerfed by the sun, but not its ice attacks. However, Indeedee clicking Follow Me, the Venusaur connects the Sleep Powder this time, but still not into Excadrill. Excadrill is perfectly safe from this Ice Beam damage and can just KO Greninja. This would be a good time to land an attack if you're Venusaur, but instead it misses another Sleep Powder, and Torkoal goes down. And I don't think Venusaur wins this one by itself. There may have been a chance. I mean, you have to beat Excadrill, Hippowdon, Indeedee. You probably lose to the Indeedee in the end once it wakes up. It probably has something. Well, I don't know. It might not have Psychic. I think it would be worth playing this one out to see, but it would be tough for the Venusaur to win. I'm just not sure it's impossible. No, with the Sleep Powder, it's definitely not impossible. I think I would play this one out if it were me, but I can understand the forfeit. But yeah, the Sandshrews, I really feel for them in this game. They brought a lot of smart techs for the sand mode on the other side, and getting that Crawdaunt KO when they did was good, but the Venusaur then just decided... The Venusaur just justified that blunder policy that it bought, deciding to miss most of its attacks the rest of the game, and so much for all that pressure it was putting out. It doesn't matter if you can't actually connect. Hopefully it'll have a better run in Game 2. As we see Indeedee and Alchemy lead now against Greninja and Hitmontop. Alchemy just gets flinched right away, so does Greninja, so not a lot going on in this turn. There's the Follow Me. Greninja going for the Water Pledge. I wonder whether there's some kind of pledge combo with the Venusaur, or it might just be that it's a relatively strong water attack that won't miss. I mean, Water Pledge isn't that strong, but like I've been running it on Primarina for the same reason, so I don't want Hydro Pump to miss. The Hitmontop keeps getting crits this game, and here it drops the Indeedee, and we do see it's a setup Alchemy again, going for the Calm Mind. Excadrill gets in here, and they immediately throw away the Calm Mind boost to get their Sand mode going. Maybe not believing in the Alchemy without the Indeedee. Yeah, this Hitmontop is a critical hit machine so far, but not this turn. Still does decent damage into Hippowdon. They get the Sun up and Electivire in. Didn't bring the Venusaur to this game. I think the Venusaur was very strong into this team. I'm actually a little surprised we don't see the Salamence as an adjustment for it. But maybe they just don't believe in the Venusaur after what happened last game, and if that's the case, I can't really blame them. But I think on paper it still puts out a lot of pressure. It just needs to hit its moves. But yeah, maybe I can understand wanting to take a break from the Venusaur. Maybe the Venusaur is too tilting after that game 1. Hitmontop is doing a lot of damage to things, but you see the Air Balloon Electivire get in safely. Now its Balloon is gone. The Sun is still up, though. Excadrill drops to a Mach Punch. And Hippowdon is getting worn down pretty quickly for being such a physically bulky Pokemon. I think Electivire probably has something to finish it off here. But Hippowdon, yeah, the Ice Punch. Hippowdon just going for a helping hand in Alchemy, but Alchemy threw away its Calm Mind boost earlier, now has no setup, and still just doesn't do that much damage. And Electivire and Torkoal should be able to close it out pretty easily here. Yeah, it looks like Torkoal will land the finishing move. Electivire being on the field means Alchemy can't even safely focus on attacking the Torkoal, so Torkoal just gets full power Terrafire Eruptions until the game is over. So, yeah, so I said that the Venusaur put out pressure, but they didn't need it this game, as Hitmontop and Electivire just did damage and broke through. The Alchemy setup mode, with the Alchemy switching out to get the Sand going when it did, it just kind of interrupted all of its own momentum, and it didn't have a chance to get going in the end game. And yeah, the Excadrill kind of struggled to carry a game plan by itself when it wasn't dodging Sleep Powders and Leaf Storms. Like I said, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen the Salamence. I think there's a good chance we see it in Game 3, but it does have to watch out for Greninja, and to a lesser extent Electivire. But anyway, we're going to Game 3. Let's see what happened. As we see Indeedee, and there is the Salamence, leading against Venusaur and Hitmontop. Venusaur's back, Salamence is here. It'll get faked out turn 1, and so will Venusaur. Classic. Turn 1. Did Venusaur flinch before Salamence there? Implying, I think, that it's already faster even before Chlorophyll and before Blunder Policy. Well, in any case, here's the Chlorophyll. Venusaur misses another Sleep Powder, gets his Blunder Policy, but that dual Wing Beat does a lot of damage. Doesn't quite KO. And it can't put the Salamence to sleep with Indeedee redirecting, which Indeedee can do because it's still awake because that Sleep Powder missed. Torkoal gets a big Eruption, but especially bulky Indeedee doesn't even take so much from it. Now Hitmontop comes in. It will weaken Salamence's attack stat, but it'll still take a lot from dual Wing Beat. I guess you need Electivire here to take that attack. From the way they're playing, maybe they didn't bring Electivire. Now we see Hippowdon setting the Sand up. The Endeavor into Hippowdon is nice, as Sandshrews should be in a position to win the Weather War from here, as Hippowdon does get KO'd. And it is Greninja in the back, not Electivire. Goes for the Terra Grass, so it'll take a ground attack pretty nicely now. Well, relatively nicely. But Indeedee still pressuring with the Follow Me. Drops to a Grass Terra Blast here, so that's nice. They can get Torkoal in, and well, Venusaur probably gets off one move into something before it goes down, but that could be the key to the game. Switch Greninja out to Torkoal, yeah. Venusaur goes just for a Leaf Storm into Excadrill, but it doesn't KO. I think you pretty much needed to get rid of one of these Pokemon that turn. So honestly, I can understand not clicking Sleep Powder, because it's got to be really tilting to click Sleep Powder at this point, but that might actually have been what they needed. And Salamence shows the Steel Terra, so it'll take this Ice Beam anyway. And actually, I guess it's to the Lancer's benefit that Salamence didn't come until Game 3, and then just spammed dual Wing Beat and hit a lot of its true power until late in the game. The Terra Steel came at just the right time, that it looked like maybe Greninja could pull this one back, but Salamence taking full advantage of the Terrestrial mechanic to rip that away. But I really think the story of this set is the Venusaur missing so many of its moves. I think that it could very easily have gone the other way if more of those had connected. And we'll wrap things up for today with one more set, and this should be a good one. Two proven PDL veterans, Robbie and Thinkboy, facing off in a showdown between big-time Sandrush and the melodic Miraidon. And this is an interesting big-time Sand Rush team, as they've left like I feel like they've left all their most threatening Pokemon behind. I mean, that's overstating it a little bit, but Tinkaton is I think a good Pokemon in this format, but it's not necessarily one of the heaviest hitters. They brought both Gothorita and Drakloak. They brought Palmet, which we're used to seeing in a little more of a support role, but it can certainly do damage. Same goes for Aqua Breed Tauros. And then I don't know, maybe they're going for like Screens, Belly Drum, Ice Cube stuff. It'd be fun if they are. But yeah, this is a very interesting team choice here. And on the other side, we see the duo that I was so worried about last week of Dragapult and Glimmora, and also Gallade, more of a trio. We see support from the Magmar, and actually, if it is an Ice Cube game plan, then the Magmar could be important into that, as could the Glimmora, for different reasons. Bruxish is going to make it hard to spam Fake Out or anything like that into this team, and then the Vivillon. And we'll see what the Vivillon does. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Oh, look at that. By the way, Drakloak facing off against its evolved form. But Palmet goes right for the Fake Out. And I'm not sure why, as the Bruxish lead, of course, does stop it with Dazzling. Maybe they forgot. But Drakloak just drops the Dragapult with Draco Meteor? Wait, Drakloak went before Dragapult. Is it Scarf Drakloak? Man, how often do you see a Pokemon just one-shot its evolved form like that in any competitive format? That was amazing. Palmet is protected from being KO'd back by its Focus Sash. So you see Tinkaton come in here. Palmet will now drop, but Tinkaton is pretty well positioned in this Glimmora. It doesn't take too much from that Earth Power. I mean, it takes less than half, at least. I guess it'll get KO'd here. Never mind that. But I was hoping to see a Gigaton Hammer, but I guess you can only have so much hype in one game. Ice Cube going for the Terra Water and the Substitute, clearly setting up for something. Drakloak is just, again, throwing off a Draco Meteor. I think that's just their game plan here. Scarf, Draco Meteor, Drakloak. But now the Glimmora shows the Energy Ball. What happened here? Glimmora shows the Energy Ball. Ice Cube shows the Salac Berry. I'm beginning to think there might not be a Belly Drum game plan, although... No, you can do that. Substitute, Belly Drum, Salac Berry. That's actually like a classic single strat from, I don't know, Gen 3, 4. But I imagine it's hard to pull off in doubles when there are so many more things that can threaten, ways an opponent can threaten it. But we'll see. In any case, no Belly Drum setup here, and they don't get the KO into Glimmora, and... We also saw, I wanted to mention, the interaction with Substitute and Ice Face there, as the Psychic Fangs being a physical attack, if it hit Ice Cube directly, it would do no damage and break the Ice Face, but I guess into a Substitute, it still breaks the Substitute. That doesn't surprise me, but I don't think I'd ever seen that interaction before. In any case, Drakloak can finish off Glimmora here, but I think Ice Cube, well, now it's protected by the Ice Face, so it gets a chance to KO the Terrafire Bruxish, and it does. But it's Vivillon in the back. Ice Cube does a lot of damage to Vivillon. Actually, Drakloak might be able to win this. Not yet. Vivillon finishes off Ice Cube, and it just needs to hold up against the weakened Drakloak. Drakloak has now taken a ton of Draco Meteor drops. Vivillon takes this Draco Meteor. If it lands a Sleep Powder here and then has the tech to wear Drakloak down, then it can win, for sure. There's the Sleep Powder. What does Vivillon have to attack with? Just Pollen Puff. And I guess disabled. And Think Boy forfeits. Yeah, okay, I guess Vivillon didn't have any other attack, and Drakloak was inevitably going to wake up and get that last Draco Meteor, or two. It might have taken two, I don't know. I feel like it could still be winnable for Think Boy, at least depending on Vivillon's set. Like, if you protect... and then you predict when Drakloak will wake up, and you Sleep Powder it again. You can stall out the Disable turns. You need 3 more Pollen Puffs without Curse Body activating. I'm making assumptions. I don't know that Vivillon has Protect. But depending on its set, there might really have been a chance for Think Boy to win this one. But it was pretty remote, pretty unlikely, and I can understand just forfeiting. I actually, again, I think I would probably play it out, but that's just what I'm like. I'm not criticizing. In any case, we'll just jump straight to game 2. After a wild game 1 with so many interesting interactions, I don't know how they're going to one-up that, but we see Drakloak and Gothorita here leading against Magmar and Dragapult. You see it specs Dragapult. Gothorita goes right for the Water Terra as Drakloak throws off a Hydro Pump into Magmar. This Drakloak is a menace, but it doesn't actually do that much damage into the Eviolite Magmar with the Hydro Pump. Gothorita gets taunted, so it can't set Trick Room. And Robbie pivots to Tinkaton. The Hydro Pump does a little more damage to the Glimmora, but still not as much as he'd like. And Glimmora now showing the Dazzling Gleam. So we've seen Earth Power, Energy Ball, and Dazzling Gleam, right? This Glimmora is... It's dropped at least one of its stabs for a ton of coverage into this team, and we have seen it put in some work, for sure. Gothorita pivoting back in. Assault Vest Glimmora, I kind of figured at this point. Get Dragapult back in. Shadow Ball crit into Gothorita. Does a fair bit of damage against the drop, and with the Gallade Sacred Sword will KO. And Tinkaton missing a Play Rough is pretty unfortunate for Robbie there. They had a good chance to take out one of the strongest offensive Pokemon on the other side, and just got no damage instead. Of course, we've seen Drakloak one-shot the Dragapults, so they're not out of options. Drakloak tries to burn the Gallade. Gallade protects. So Draco Meteor, Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp. Interesting set on that. And this time we see the Tauros in the back. Of course, it can't intimidate the Clear Amulet Gallade. Magmar redirects a Will-O-Wisp. Wouldn't have done anything. Drakloak goes down here. And it's Burn, Tinkaton, and Tauros against Magmar and Gallade as Tauros just drops to a Psycho Cut before it gets the chance to move. So the Melodic Miraidon pretty handily take game 2 here. Sandrush not going for any kind of Ice Cube game plan this time, and the Drakloak just not really doing enough damage with the Hydro Pump to establish much of a threat. Missing the Play Rough is pretty bad as well. And then, how did the Tinkaton get burned? Flame Body. Yeah, okay, so the Magmar not taking much from Drakloak's Hydro Pump and burning the Tinkaton really made it hard for Sandrush to get any offense going. But again, Sandrush also brought a relatively low power team this time, apart from the Ice Cube, which we didn't see this game, and to a lesser extent the Palmet, which we didn't see this game. So we'll probably see at least one of those in game 3, as they can't afford to just be shut down like that again. And it is Palmet and Drakloak leading against Gallade and Magmar. Palmet going right for the Terra Electric. That means it can use Double Shock and then use Double Shock again. And it does just knock out the Magmar with a double up of Hydro Pump and Double Shock. I wonder whether you even need the Hydro Pump there. I'm not going to run any calcs while I'm recording this video, but I kind of wonder whether it would have been safer to use Draco Meteor with the Drakloak, because I think that's more accurate than Hydro Pump. Maybe that doesn't give them the damage they need, I don't know. But in any case, they connect the Hydro Pump and then the Double Shock KOs. And despite the text here saying Palmet used up all its electricity, because it went for the Electric Terra first, it actually can use Double Shock again. That is how that works. You have to use the Electric Terra. It has to be, I think it has to be Electric and not Stellar, and you definitely have to use it. You have to Terastallize before you use the attack. But do that, and Double Shock is reusable. Drakloak here is traded for Magmar. Of course, we pretty well know it doesn't have an Eviolite. But I think you're fine with that trade if you're Robbie, because the Magmar was just so disruptive in game 2. Oh, they also even disabled the Gallade Psycho Cut. Of course, Sacred Sword is fine into Palmet. We see Glimmora come in, goes for the Grass Terra, but Palmet just deletes Gallade with Double Shock. And then its Sash protects it for now from an Earth Power. Robbie gets Trick Room up just as Dragapult comes in. The foul play from Gothorita does so much to Dragapult with a crit. We know it specs Dragapult, so it probably has the 0 attack IV, modest or timid nature. But The Foul Play almost KOs with the crit, all the same. But Glimmora gets Dazzling Gleam off here, so Palmet goes down without landing another attack because of their own Trick Room. Gothorita also gets KO'd by the Dragapult, but we saw that this Tauros was slow. It uses Thief into Dragapult. Tauros KOs the Dragapult with Thief. Did we see Tauros' item? Does Tauros have an item? I mean, it didn't steal the specs there, so... Maybe it has a consumable item, and then Thief covers for Dragapult, I guess. It's not that strong an attack, but Dragapult does resist Tauros' stabs. And if Dragapult had like a Life Orb or a Choice Band, then maybe Tauros would like to steal that. I feel like I half understand what Robbie was cooking there, but I'm not all the way there. Maybe you can tell me, Robbie, what that was about. Well, we do see the Thief KO the Dragapult, but the Glimmora, Terra Grass, Tauros probably doesn't have good coverage into that, and it just KOs with the Energy Ball. The Palmet, again, having gone down... I guess Dragapult could KO Palmet when it came in anyway, so the Palmet was denied another chance to attack by the Trick Room, but... No, I guess the speed control... I guess the speed control game was just in Think Boy's favor there, as one of their Pokemon was going before Palmet either way. And we don't see the Tinkaton this game. It actually might have been very strong here when the Magmar went down. I think a Gigaton Hammer or something could have done a lot to Glimmora after we saw Tinkaton takes the Earth Power reasonably well. And they never tried the Ice Cube again after Game 1. And so, Think Boy with more power on their side. We saw a lot of crazy tricks from Robbie in this set. I especially loved the Drakloak one-shotting the Dragapult on turn 1 of Game 1. But over a 3-game set, those tricks fell a little short against the raw power and, you know, overall strong, well-rounded, bulky, powerful, fast Pokemon on Think Boy's side. And so the Melodic Miraidon take this one, and that is the end for now of our Week 5 coverage. I'm sure I'll know by next week what has happened to the Flat Sands versus Mudkips set. Next week's PDL video will, I think, probably be approximately 2 days late, because it's Thanksgiving next weekend and I won't be available to record at any of my usual times. So it'll probably come out on Wednesday, I think. That's a good estimate. But in any case, whatever the situation is, we'll see you next time.